Well, you are back on air with Music News and Views. This is The Dazzler here with new Mayor-elect Matt Hatcher. Welcome to the program, Matt. Thanks for
Thanks
joining
so much,
us.
Daryl. Thanks for having me.
So tell us, how did a guy from Alabama become mayor of the Eurobodalla Shire Council?
Oh, that is an interesting path I think I took. Yes, I was born in Alabama in Mobile, or Mobile as we would say over here. And I think I left home around 19. After I graduated high school, I did 2 years of university, and in midway through the second year, September 11th happened. And I think we can all remember where we were then, and that kind of really woke me up to sort of get out and see the world before it's gone. And so I finished that year and took off just before my 20th birthday. I ended up over in England, as a lot do, and working in pubs and living above and traveling Europe. And I probably spent the next 10 solid years traveling the world. I would spend sort of 3 to 6 months in Australia and then spend 6 to 9 months overseas, backpacking around Africa, Middle East, everywhere, South America. Me and my wife did all 7 continents, and we just really immersed ourselves, I guess, in culture and food and drinks all around the world. And I think it's, it really builds who you are, running into spaces like that with eyes wide open, but just throwing yourself in. And we did a lot of volunteer work in Africa, and we settled back in Australia right before I was 29. We came back to the South Coast, as we always did. This was always sort of home. We always came here after some travels, and we ended up back in Canberra for jobs, for work, as a lot do. And I hit it hard. I remember I was doing, I think, six days a week, 12 hours a day. It's just sort of the way I do things, and got lucky enough to open my own business with a business partner in Canberra. And that was sort of probably a turning point from leaving the coast with just me and my wife, going to Canberra and sort of starting at around 30 years old, starting life as an adult, really, because, when you're backpacking, you're living by the seat of your pants. And that business, we had in the end had a fire, and it cost me everything. I lost everything at that stage, and it was really a turning point. I think at the time I looked at it and thought it was just the absolute worst thing that could happen to me. 9 years on, I think back, it's probably the turning point in my life, probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, that I sort of reevaluated everything. When you go from that really high to just absolutely zero and having nothing and having to start over. And at the same stage, like literally lost everything, filed bankruptcy. We had our first child, and it was like just absolutely, the worst of the worst you could think of.
Pressure, huh?
But at the same time, I never sort of let it get me down. And I've always looked at Australia as the place, kind of like America was 20 years ago, that if you put the hours in and you worked hard, you could succeed in anything. And I always found that here. And so I did that. I put my head down and just started working, and started managing wineries and some other jobs as well. But after we had our child at the same time, we were a couple of months in, and we actually came back to the coast for my citizenship to receive that. And Lindsay Brown was the mayor at the time. So I actually got my citizenship in the local shire. And when we came down for that, we spent about 3 or 4 days down here, and it sort of just stuck with us that we needed to get back to the coast to sort of recharge, reset everything. So we decided, we went back to Canberra that week and decided that we would change and just move back to the coast. And it was, I guess, hard because you're leaving secure job, money, city, to come back down here, and you didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know anyone. I was sort of starting over completely in life at 30 years old. And hit the coast, and again, I guess, sort of just hit the ground running and started reaching out and just networking, and found work very quickly, and went from one job, asked to come to manage and run another venue, and that succeeded. And then I got approached by another venue to do the same again, and it sort of kept compounding. So then I think it was about 6 years ago, I joined the chamber. I was approached by, funnily enough, the now president of the Batemans Bay Chamber to join, and I didn't even know what a chamber was at the time. And he had actually turned me down for a job. funnily enough. And about a week later, he asked me to take the job, and I turned him down. But we were sort of struck a chord, and we remained really close friends after that. And so he asked me to join the chamber, and I did. And I didn't have a business in the Bay at the time. I was sort of, they sort of just took me under their wing, and it really opened me up to, I guess, that network of business owners in the Bay and people who were thinking, I guess, bigger picture. And that was really exciting. And then local politics were at the same time, sort of 5-6 years ago, and I started getting an interest in that. And as we know, at one stage was going to run in the last election, and ended up just helping in a campaign. And it really, I guess I'm really look back now. You can always look back at everything and see whether it was actually good or bad for you. And I look back at that, and I'm so happy that I didn't get on, because I was so new, and so, I just wouldn't have known what I was doing. So I spent the last 5 years really like learning about local politics, trying to, just be entrenched in the community and see what it is that, not that I want, but what the community wants, and seeing where we all, we're on the same page with so many things. I then started a small coffee van business, which grew. I then started a roasting business, which has obviously grown as well in the region. And then 2 years ago was the fires. And all of that experience over the last 7 years before the fires, when I arrived here, every network I'd built, every coffee to the mayor, every coffee to the politicians, to Catherine, to, my coffee van, it's so weird looking back that business got me in front of so many people. So when the fires hit, I was able to just instantly reach out to everyone. So I had everyone's contact details. And it was kind of, I look at it and just say it was perfect timing. I was the right person at that time, and everyone sort of filled their role around me. And I guess the last 2 years have been really doing so much bushfire relief. It's hard to sort of think of a time that it even stops, to be honest. And I'm still getting contacted from people all over the country who either came here to help or were here, and now they've since moved away, and they're still requiring some assistance, and they really feel like they don't have anyone to reach out to. So back of all that, I opened Marra Lodge in Sydney as well, and leading up to today. So I think I've done a lot of community work over the last 2 years especially, but even before that, with the Chamber, we were always pushing tourism initiatives and local events, and I'm really big on, I guess I'm pretty loud and tall, so I'm quite well known and seen, but it's for me, it's about how can we as a community, everyone come together and really push this region. I'm so proud to live here. I'm so proud that I've been welcomed into this town and region, and I think gone are the days that we should say, there's nothing to do around here. There's that this town is bad. We should be proud of where we live and what we've been through and how we've pulled through the other end. And it's time to start propping the area up and working together.
Absolutely. We're so lucky to live here. It's just amazing. So before we went on air, Matt was saying, if the average life expectancy is 80 years, that Matt's got 20,000 days approximately left to go, and that every day he's got to be working towards something. So it's
14,600.
Okay, 14,600. Okay, well that takes a couple years off. So it sounds like your 20s were spent seeing the world and having some amazing experiences, traveling. And is it fair to say now that you're a little bit more service oriented? It sounds like you really want to be stepping up for the community. Would you say that that's kind of where maybe a little bit more maturity has taken your focus? Yeah,
I think, like I say, everything you can point back to and say, I guess at the moment you may think it's a bad thing, but down the track you can look back and say it was the turning point, or it was something great in life. It's hindsight, but I've always been one to realize how fortunate I was to be born in the States or in a Western country in general, and then to be able to come to Australia, be welcomed very easily, get my citizenship. Like these are things that we take for granted, and we were just lucky enough to be born in a place like that. Just on the other side of the world, there's someone who's born in a third world country who has nothing, and while there's always the ability for anyone to succeed anywhere, the percentages are against them, So I've always thought I want to always give back, and that's I've spent a lot of time. I've done I think 6 trips to Africa now, and every time I go there, it just really makes me reconnect with the world. It's not just us in our little paradise here. There's people struggling all around the world every day, and I think I'm so fortunate that I want to always try and give back. And I guess being at the age I am now and the experience that I've had traveling, this is the place that I want to be. So I think it's key that everyone sort of understands how lucky we are to live here. I think everyone's obviously put a lot of work in to be where they are in life, but it's key now that I think after what we've been through in the last 2 years that everyone decides to put a little bit of work into the community. You can donate your time anywhere, and any little bit counts, whether it's working at a soup kitchen or, even just picking up trash on the road when you're walking past, or pushing your kids to do the same thing. It's important that we now are coming more together as a community and working together as well.
Yeah, you said that anyone can succeed anywhere, but some people have many steps in front of those people.
Yes,
perhaps
that's right.
depending where we live, how we're born, where we're born into, and definitely there's a wide disparity here in the Eurobodalla Shire. And one of the really exciting things about your policies that I thought was your interest in getting youth more active and engaged and creating opportunities for youth. And I think that when you look at the youth, that's really an opportunity to bridge those divides. How do you see that happening? What can we do for our youth?
There's a couple of things. I mean, I think it's key that, leading up to an election, there's a lot of talking, and everyone has their points that they want to talk about. And it's really key that now we know who the councillors are, who your mayor is. It's key for everyone to no more attacks, get behind, whether you voted for me or not, or you voted for any of the other candidates. Most likely someone from the team you supported got in. So it's get behind them, support them, because they're going to need it. It's all of us working together. My very first, I went into the chamber on Tuesday and met with the executive, and I wanted to make sure that the people that came to see me on that day were key people to me in getting me to where I was. And so I had Peter Cormick, who's a local resident who helped me a lot leading up to all this, and he came in. And then I had Sarah Gorst, who is a 29-year-old local Aboriginal girl from Bateman's Bay, and she's starting up a new kelp business. And we had been working together just behind the scenes, chatting since the election we met. And I think bridging that gap between the idea of what a mayor or a councillor is and council chambers and the youth. Most of them are completely disconnected from it. They've never been in there, and they're not going to just walk in. So we've got to go to them. So I've reached out to other, in my opinion, local youth Aboriginal leaders as well in Bateman's Bay, and I've said to them, the door's open. I want you to come in, but I'm happy to come and see you. I think we need to be talking with year 11 and year 12, because in 2 years when the next election comes, they're going to be voting as well, and we need to see what it is that they want. While I am 39 and I definitely look it, I still feel early 20s, and I work and I have the energy of like I did when I was in my 20s. So getting out to events, getting out into the schools, it's not about trying to gear up so that we know that we're going to get a vote from someone. It's about finding out what they actually want. They're never going to connect. They're never going to have an appreciation for this area if they're not part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So for people that, maybe are less inclined to follow local elections,
Yes.
Just to kind of give a broad snapshot, where do you fall on the political spectrum between, the right and the left? Where would you say that you
It's hard
find
because
yourself?
I truly don't think, and I think a lot of people who know me know this, I don't really fall on any of those. I think, and I was speaking to, we had a little get together of most of the councillors got together last night. Some are out of town, but I was speaking to Alison Worthington's partner, and I was saying to him, I think everyone's 20% green. That's where the base for everyone in this chat. You can't live here and not want the environment to be protected. After that, you've got some people who are a little bit more, stronger feelings towards it, and then there's going to be some who want to see progression. I think 80% though of people, we all fall into line with most things. We want to see a good community. We don't want to see crime rates. We don't want to see drug use. We want to see the place beautiful. We want to see the waterways protected and the forest protected and the animals. I think there's definitely, with my business background, there's going to be things where I lean right, and there's going to be social injustice where I lean left. I really honestly look at every policy and just, I mean, I guess I'm not there also to sort of say this is what I want. It's about what the community wants. So everything we do is going to have to be opened up and asked to community. We just can't allow sort of loud minority groups to take away from everything else. We've really got to get out there. And I've spoken with the other councillors, and they agree. You know, everyone's on the same side. We really do want to see a drastic change in the way that council deals with the public. I think that openness, accountability, but also just that engagement. If it's there, but we then need community to engage. It's important that people realize it's not over. You have to now step up as well. It's you know, constantly get in touch with us if there's something that's a problem for you. As we all know, there's going to be things that the community may think is something that we can control, but sometimes it's a state government. Sometimes it's, you know, some of the requests I've gotten in the last 48 hours already are things that just are out of the hands of myself or even a local council.
Yeah.
But I think that's where the engagement needs to just take over, and we need to make sure we, you know, getting out there and letting the public know what it is that we can and can't do, and whether that's through meeting here once a week, whether it's going on other radio stations, media, meeting in public forums, making sure that the region like Bodalla knows who they can call. So, you know, often things happen and you're not sure who to reach out to. We want to make sure that we're looking at ways that we could possibly, and we're looking at drawing out of a hat, but putting councillors in certain wards type situations so that a local area knows who they can contact for any problems they may have. And then that would then come back to the collective when we meet. It's really about that engagement and the communication coming out so that people know where council's at, what we're up to, and just those processes being open as well.
Well, that's a great that's a great segue to lead into another sort of, I think, significant concern that people have perhaps in the south of our shire, you know, in places like Narooma and South,
yes,
where, you know, they typically have less representation. They might feel that they are, you know, don't quite have this as strong of a voice as Batemans Bay or Maria residents.
Of course.
So aside from that, I guess that's a great way to start getting a little bit more engagement from those communities, or a way to reach out. Any other ideas?
Yeah, no, I've heard this heaps of people saying, you know, don't forget about Narooma, we get forgotten. I'll also say that when I had a business in Narooma earlier this year, and I would talk to people, they would always say that they were forgotten. And when I'm in Batemans Bay, people there say they're forgotten. I can say, listen, I guess not being born here, or being born in one of the particular towns, I can say I love the whole shire and I love the region. You know, I spent some time. I've lived down in Bega for a year as well, and I loved it down there. For me, each town, you know, you're never going to please every town in any given election cycle, because there's going to be certain infrastructure projects that happen in one and not the other. I can say we are planning on spending just as much time in Narooma as we are in Maria, as we are in Batemans Bay, and we want to spend time in Ballowra and Narragunda and Mogo and Nelligan. It's key to bring everyone along, and we're working on ways we can do that. I don't think moving council meetings to those spaces are a good idea. I think opening up council to Zoom or webcasting so people can actually log in from wherever they are and see it as a better option. You know, logistically moving everything to another town. We will look at moving, possibly having some meetings at night, just to accommodate people in different work schedules. And we can even look at different days as well. I think moving it though to a different town is a little bit harder. But like I said, I've spoken with the other councillors, and we want to make sure that we're continuing, instead of meet the candidates, is now meet your councillor. And we want to get that out, and whether we're rotating schedule or what, we want to have it so that there's a pop-up every quarter, whatever it may be.
Like a pop-up town hall kind of event?
just and it could just be come out, meet, bring your problems. It doesn't have to be an agenda. It can just be come down and meet, just so there's a connection. We want to re-engage with the community as much as possible in council meetings. We want to open back up to a tea break where your councillors are there. You can come out, approach them. You know, I am, you know, if you see me on the streets, you know I'm just one of you. I'm running around in blue jeans and a t-shirt, and, you know, I don't want to ever feel like there's a disconnect between what's happening in there and the community. You know, the community is what got myself and all the other counselors on there. So we've got to make sure we stay grounded, and we're always there to listen.
Well, hopefully, we won't lose you behind, the celebrity hat.
Yeah, definitely. I do like the mask thing when I go to Woolies. I'm kind of enjoying a little bit of that. But I will say as well, I've never had a business focused in Bateman's Bay, but I have had a business in Maria, and I have had a business in Bodalla and Narooma. So I can guarantee you my thinking is always about Shire-wide.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And, I think more and more what our Shire is concerned residents about whatever issues that people are concerned about are learning that, more and more people need to be speaking up, writing letters.
Yeah,
and,
that's right.
As we've seen, voting for a new council. We've got 7 new faces coming in. What do you think? How do you see your fellow councillors coming in? Do you think we've got a wide variety on the political spectrum, from far right all the way to as you mentioned, Alison Worthington from the Greens. She's on the left. Do you think that there's common ground that can be bridged here, or do you think that there's a bit of hashing out that's going to have to happen between
I think there's always common ground with most. I think straight away we're all there for the community. That's what I have to go in thinking that everyone's genuinely running because they want to see a better region. So right there, when it comes to accountability and openness, I think there's been a couple of, unfortunately not more, but there were a couple of meetings of meet your mayors and meet your candidates. And when questions were posed to all of us, I'd say a huge majority of the time the questions were answered the same, that we want to see something the representation of our council being more of what we want to see as a community. So we want to see more openness, more accountability, and I think we're going to have we're gonna have some debate is going to be around progress or moving forward of developments, how that looks. I don't think anyone believes that we don't need any more development. I think it's just how we go about that, what those boxes are that need to be ticked. And the way I look at it is we need to stop sitting back and allowing anything to happen. We need to be going after the types of developers that we want in the Shire that are going to build what this community want. And there's always ways that we can work together on that. And I've spoken with Alison, I've spoken with David, Grace, and I'm very confident that we've got a great group of councillors going in, that there's enough for us to tick off in the first 2 years that we see eye to eye, and that there won't be too many voting times where it's not a heavy majority.
Well, that sounds like an era
That's the
of
hope,
change.
obviously. I mean, I think we all get along as well. That's the great, and obviously there's going to be times where we don't, and there's going to be things that come up where we disagree on. We've already started talking about that. Obviously, you can look at our policies for Advanced Eurobodalla. You can look at David's policies. You can look at Alison's, and there's always going to be some things that don't match up. But again, I think we're all there for the right reasons, and I'm the type of person that likes to sit back and listen and evaluate everyone's opinion, because I'm happy to change my opinion if it's what the community wants. But we like I said, we can't let any loud minority group, or we really got to make sure we're engaging and we're getting the full picture, because there's on every topic, it's very easy to look at one post on Facebook or whatever media and say, okay, well, that's not what the community wants. But quite often there's 2/3 or 80% of the population who haven't responded, and they're actually pro whatever it may be. So it's more about making sure that we're engaging properly, we're getting out there, and however we have to do that, whether it's using social media or through the media or door knocking, we have to just make sure we're getting the job done.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And also, for every one person that writes a letter, there's often 20 people that don't, or 200 people that don't. So, Matt, development is a hot topic in our Shire, and you were just mentioning the necessity to balance. Are there any shires or places in the world that you have visited that you think have done a really good job of balancing, preserving our coast, preserving the environment, and still moving forward with housing development and tourism?
Everywhere's so unique, and this place is definitely that. We've had, because of the bushfires, losing that many houses, and then coming straight out of that into the pandemic, with the exodus of people from the cities down here, we've obviously got a huge housing shortage. I think we're all aware of that. And the supply shock has been huge to this region. House prices doubling in the last couple of years. There's definitely things that we can look at, whether it's allowing dual occupancy on certain blocks or changing some of the DCP. But in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, and I will be waiting to make judgment once we get there and we talk together and we talk with the community. But we've got to get some houses built. The only way to fix the supply shock is to do that. We do need to look at the way in which the size of blocks, where we're allowing duplexes, medium density. But what we really want to see is more infill in towns. I think that's something that all the councillors agree on as well, and that's something that we can start addressing fairly quickly. That will prop business up as well. And I'm always going to, I guess, look at everything from a business perspective as well. But because I think that flows into local jobs, it flows into a healthy economy. We've got a problem with all of our towns that we've always sort of been such a so the town centers are small. They're not very busy at night, and the only way to really fix it is because we have no foot traffic. I think you often hear anyway, people wanting cafes open on Sundays and restaurants to be open later. But you can't have those things if you don't have people. It's got to be viable for the business. So the quicker we can get more infill in all towns, then it's something that's going to help the entire region.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I realized I live under a rock a little bit when you came into the studio and you told me about the Visit Bateman's Bay project where Nora Jones and a few other well-known artists did little shout-outs on social media to Bateman's Bay. Can you tell us about that? And then we'll go into a Nora Jones Christmas Carol. Yeah,
of course. So I was obviously with the Bateman's Bay Chamber. I've resigned now, just make that public as well, make sure that's clear. And we have a tourism initiative called Visit Bateman's Bay. And we've got a contact at Universal Music and Capitol Records. And we just wanted to, the last 2 years, like I keep saying, have been very rough. And as the Chamber in Bateman's Bay, we were looking at trying to have a really big Christmas last year. And we had it all planned, and then COVID came and we had to squash a lot of it. We had a great New Year's Eve celebration and a 1 year to mark the 1 year of the bushfires. But we really wanted to go big again this year. And again, because of some new variants and other restrictions that we weren't sure were going to happen, we had to kind of squash what we wanted to do. We've got a huge Christmas tree up in the bay, and we thought the only way we could really do this was possibly just keep it online. So we wanted to reach out to some artists around the world that we had been looking at trying to get here anyway for some music concerts.
To Bateman's Bay, like
Bateman's
Nora
Bay.
Jones plays Bateman's Bay. So
one of my big complaints after the bushfires was we had this huge benefit concert to benefit bushfire victims in Sydney. And if we would have had that here, then every hotel in the area is full, all the restaurants are booked out, and there's millions of dollars flooding into the region. And we know we had, sorry, my apologies.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, I'm so sorry. NRL games down in Bega Valley, and that I think it brought $4 to $6 million into the economy for one night. So having those events and having the facilities here to be able to do things like that brings in huge amounts of money instantly into a town, especially in those off-peak seasons or those low shoulder seasons. So when we reached out, we sort of had our fingers crossed that we would get a message from Nora Jones, and we were told we would. So Nora's released a new Christmas album, and we sort of did a little bit of a parody off the back of her music video. But what happened was they then came back and said, listen, we've got all these other artists that would also like to, wish you a Merry Christmas as well. So we started getting a flood of artists. And obviously you should log on and have a look at the video. And some of it's gone a bit viral. And forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, but Andre Rui, I'm not sure. He's a very famous violinist and composer. He put a brilliant message up and played Silver Bells for us as well, and wished the whole region, Merry Christmas for what we've been through in the last 2 years. So those artists are also looking at how they can come out here as well. So we know we've got one signed on already. I can't announce who, But yeah, I mean, I think it's key, and the chamber is going to continue that path of pushing to get bigger events to the region, and it's just to bolster tourism in those outside seasons. I think the more we can balance the tourism out down here year round, then we're going to get more sustainable businesses, which is going to lead into better jobs, more jobs for the region, and probably more industry as well.
So thanks for tuning in. It's 12:43. We are on air with Mayor-elect Matt Hatcher. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us, a big promise that a lot of people made during this campaign was that there'd be more community engagement, more listening to what the community wants, and that councillors would get more involved in sort of perhaps the more mundane aspects of council. How does that happen? You know, we're seeing a lot of different developments in our community. There's a lot of sort of segregation between different sort of expert panels within the council. And how do you balance council staff who have a lot of experience in certain areas with also, having good oversight of community projects that are important to residents here, and making sure that our elected councillors are actually involved in making those decisions, and they're not just left to staff? How does that happen?
There's a couple of things. I mean, process in general has to be better, I think, and that you can see that on some of the infrastructure projects. Obviously I'm speaking as I am the current mayor, but I've only been in there for a couple of days now, and now we're shut down and for the holidays. But we want to see the process that we go about infrastructure projects changing. We want to make sure that there's not just a box-ticking exercise when it comes to community engagement. And I've sat on those sunset committees, and, there is a balance. Council, they have to make sure what they're doing is they feel is the right job for the community, and the councillors, we have been elected to make decisions. So there is a balancing act on some things. But when it comes to big infrastructure projects or big developments, it's something we've got to make sure that the community is behind. It's much better to bring them along and have them support you the whole way than it is to, dump it on them at the end and say, this is what you're getting, and then to find out that it's not actually what they wanted. And there's obviously some questions around the Mackay Park project on that one, and we want to see that opened right up. And I think that goes for all projects. We want to see, as a community member, which I am as well, I want to see where they got their information from. I want to see that the processes have been followed. When it comes to openness with council, I've like I said, I went in on Tuesday and met with Catherine and some of the other ELT, and
that's for anyone who's unaware, that's Catherine Dale. She's the general manager of the Shire Council. I'm sure you know. Yeah,
it's Dr. Catherine Dale. So I do. Yeah,
yes.
I'm not one for titles sometimes, so I apologize for that. But it's I let her know as well that my first notice of motion on the very first agenda, the very first item we'll be bringing up is reinstatement of the live streaming of the public forum, and I think that's key. Just while I believe a lot of the public doesn't actually watch, doesn't really pay attention, it's something that we have to always be striving for, is to make sure that we're being proactively open as possible. We don't want that to be questioned in the community. I think by shutting anything down, and that's something that the previous council voted on, and they have their reasons, but I know the new council going in want to see that reinstated. So I've already mentioned her, that's what we're going to be doing. And there's some other motions that we're going to be putting up from the very beginning. We don't want to sit back. We've only got 2 years and 9 months. And, I'll sort of say, we had an election, and there's going to be people who wanted me in there and people who didn't, and they wanted their person, whatever. We're where we are now, and it's about all the community supporting all the councillors and the mayor. It's very easy to sit back and just throw rocks and say how, that I'm wearing a T-shirt or, whatever decision I make, but be involved. Because if you want to talk, my office door is open. Come and see me, and I'm willing to listen, and I'm willing to change my opinion on things if that's what the community wants. That just is going to go across the board. I think that's something that I've always wanted to see. I've always wondered why you get elected and then we don't hear from you anymore. It's not just the mayor that needs to be pushing this BERA. Push all of your councillors. And I can say in the last council, a lot, you quite often you didn't see those councillors out in public. They sort of weren't held to account by their groups that got them in there, that for some reason, if you're a councillor, you don't have to put the hours in or put the work in. I'm going to be pushing every councillor, and that goes for the people on my team as well, and they know that this is what community expects, and we've got to set the bar higher. So we plan to do that.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, that's exciting. So there are this show we often kind of like to stir the pot and talk about some controversy and have get some interested groups calling in. And we've had some issues with some infrastructure projects over the last while. Some of these have been bushfire recovery ones where roads are being rebuilt. Currently, the hot topic at the moment is Congo Road North, which you're probably familiar with. For anyone who's maybe new to this, Congo Road has been closed for 4 weeks now, as it runs partly over some private land. The road has been in use for close to four decades, and the council went to go and clear some trees on it, and some concerned citizens asked them not to cut the trees, and the road has been closed ever since. So it's a really sticky, confusing situation of, is this private or public, and who's got responsibility for maintenance, and why is this road still closed, and do the risks of keeping the road closed, making Congo a one road in, one road out community after there was a drowning there last year, what is the thing to do? So
it sounds so easy.
It sounds like a total nightmare, to be honest.
Yes.
But I mean, part of the reason I've heard why we're in this situation is because the Traffic Safety Committee of Council wasn't actually involved in this decision to take this work on Congo Road. And so can you just give us any insight that you might have around that situation, and how should council committees be making these kinds of decisions?
Of course. Firstly, never let me dodge a question. So I'm going to quickly pivot from that, but make sure I come back to it. Just on infrastructure projects and roads, I've just been told by Warren Sharp that George Bass Drive from today at 3 p.m. will reopen. It'll be a 40K zone, but it will be back open for Christmas. And, we've had a lot of rain over the last couple of weeks, as we all know. And so that's hindered the process a little bit. And they did have some moisture problems yesterday when they reopened it. So he just let me know that. And he also said that Airlewin Road is looking very good after the rainfall. So I just want to pass it on. Now we'll pivot back to Congo Road.
I was going to start with the bad news, go to the good news.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I think it's easier this way. That's fine. I just didn't want to forget that. That's all. Congo Road is a problem. Like I said, I went in earlier this week and met with Dr. Catherine Dale, and it was more of a handing over phones and signing forms and things. But that was the one issue that I raised with her, that I wanted to get some more information around it. Now, I didn't have much time in there, but from what I've been given so far, it looks like a very complicated problem that we've got ahead of ourselves there. To be honest, that situation, it comes down to more about process than anything. I don't have all the facts, I'll be honest. It looks like that the landowner years ago approached council about some possibilities of things that we could possibly do moving forward. And whether or not that's the case, we've got to just be more open with community about where we are, what's happening there. We've got to be on the front foot rather than sitting back. That's something that we're gonna be meeting as councillors about, speaking with the ELT about. I was hopeful that the way I do things is try to get things done very quickly. I was hopeful that I could come in here with better news that something was changing. But I do know that road will be open for RFS, all ambulance, any emergencies, and landowners said that's fine. I want to make sure that the community, this isn't the blame of the landowner. It is a private bit of land that road goes through, that he's been gracious enough, or I'm not sure even if it's been multiple landowners, but it's gracious enough over the past some odd decades to allow traffic to go through. There's obviously been some issues that have come up with, whether it's with insurance, who's at fault if something goes wrong. I know there's particular groups who don't want to see the trees go down. I've spoken again with council, and there are options of doing a road in another place, but that would require many more trees to come down if we were to do that. So at this stage, especially in the foreseeable future, it's just going to be that one road in. I can say for emergencies, emergency access, they do have access to get through that. So in case of bushfire, it will be
barriers are coming down. Because I think there's barricades and barbed wire and everything across the road.
I'm not sure about that. But
Fair
I do,
enough.
what I was told anyway was that during emergencies, that road, there is access by emergency service to get through there.
Oh, that's
Because I have
good for the
been
busy
contacted by citizens residents in Congo who obviously they're now put out by the road being closed. They weren't whether you were part of the protest or not. It's more about that process, I think, of how we got there. And I think we can always do better. No matter what, we've got to remember that we can always do better, and we can communicate better with the community. So it looks like communication, there was a breakdown there, and we've got to get better. That's all.
Oh, this situation is so hairy because it's sort of that intersection of all of these different issues of access, emergency, environment, because this is the endangered Bengalay sand forest and endangered greater gliders live there, which is why it's an issue. And then private and public and council and infrastructure, all
it's
of
never
these
easy,
hot topics come
but that's
to
why
one
we're
place.
here,
So, I want to ask you kind of a quick question, and then I want to hear about what you're doing on Boxing Day. But you might have seen this morning that the One Hospital group sent out an update, and one of the issues was that some prominent local physicians were left out of the unveiling of the hospital, and that they feel that there's been lack of community consultation. A lot of people who are running to be elected onto council and into a mayoral position were saying that council, they can use their position to lobby for the development of the hospital the way that the community wants to see it. So what do you think about that, and how do you think we can...
that is, and our role in that is more advocacy than anything, and lobbying. So I can say that I know Fiona Cotvoys has been ticked by the Liberals to run for the state seat, and I met with Fiona yesterday, and I know Michael Holland, I believe, has just announced that he's going to be running for the Labour Party, and I've met with Michael a couple of months back before the election, and we've got a good relationship. We chat. He wished me congratulations as well, and I know where he stands on the issue. Obviously, we're going to be, as mayor and council, we've got to be willing to work with whoever's in there. And I know that we're going to be, as a collective group, after the questions that have been asked during the campaign, that I believe we're all on the same page. We want to see level 4 facilities from the moment the hospital's open, and that's the key messaging that we want to see. We don't want to see a level 4 exterior and not the same resources on the inside. So it's got to be from opening. We had Georgie Rowley on my ticket, who's an advocate and part of the founding group of Eurobodalla. So that is where I stand. To be honest, whether it's Fiona or Michael, that's for the community to decide. I won't be picking sides on that. I want to work with whoever's in there, and I just hope that it's a nice, clean election, and they do their best. That's all for the community, because really we want to see progression no matter who's in there, no matter what government's in place. We're going to be working hard with them to get the job done.
Cool. So what does Christmas look like at the Hatcher household?
It's always different. Because I'm not from here, I don't have any family that live here. I've got in-laws and things. We're going to have a breakfast with just myself and my kids, and then over to brunch with the in-laws, and then I'm inviting other immigrants like myself who don't necessarily have family here, and especially because of COVID, it's been hard. So we're just sort of get together and do that. I do really enjoy the hot winter. The hot Christmas. It's very hard to get used to, I must say, at the beginning, but I enjoy sitting on the beach and having oysters and prawns rather than hot cooked food. It's a lot easier to prepare Christmas as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I remember days it took back in the States to get prepared for it. So just relaxing Christmas Day. Then, as you say, Boxing Day, we've got we're planning this every year now, but we're going to be taking over the Mossy Cafe. There's not many cafes that are open on Boxing Day. I think there are a couple of others. I think 366 in Malua Bay. I'm not sure of anyone else. But we're going to be doing free coffee from 7 till 12. And that came about because we found that even on Christmas morning, you wake up and you want a coffee, and most places are closed. So we would sneak down to the cafe anyway and make ourselves a coffee, and other staff were showing up. So, you kind of miss each other at these times because you love working together. So we thought, let's every year we're going to do this. That's the plan, is to have a sort of a little block party and get some bands on and put free coffee on for the community and just take donations. And we'll pick a different charity every year. And this year, I just launched the Man Walk down here. I'm a man ambassador for them in Bateman's Bay and in Mossy Point, and we are looking for some others. And if there's anyone in the room that wants to join on, or any other space, we're talking with some people in Mogo at the moment as well. And it's just it's a great initiative, just getting guys on a walk. It's healthy. It gives you a chance to sort of just connect with other men in the region. The same the same topics you both have that you want to discuss, and we've been doing it for 2 weeks. It's been very successful, and they've been very, very good about supporting us down here, and they're based up in Wollongong area. And so we are also going to be raising money for Muddy Puddles, which is the disability group. And Kate, the CEO there, has been great. And I know they're so proactive in the community and what they do. And I was lucky enough for her to be on the executive of the chamber last year, and she's been super supportive. So we raised $5K 2 years ago for the RFS, and we weren't able to do it last year because of COVID. But this year we're hoping to raise 10, and if whatever it is, we're going to be splitting it down the middle for each charity. But it's key as well that if you're not around the area, or you're in the room and you don't want to make the drive on the day, if you go on, actually before I do this, can I plug a website?
Plug it.
Is that all right?
Yeah, we've got
I don't want to ever
seconds.
be plugging. Okay, yeah. GorillaRoasters.com. So we will ship your coffee to you, but anything you spend on our website on the day, we will match dollar for dollar to the charity as well. So it gives everyone the chance to sort of make a donation on Boxing Day only. But so the more we can do, the better.
Great. Well, everyone head to Mossy Cafe on Boxing Day and get a coffee. Thanks so much, Matt. Lovely to talk to you.
Always a pleasure, Daryl.
Looking forward to seeing you again in the new year.
For sure.